Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy to introduce you to Martha Eddy, who's here for today's session. And so, of course, you guys, if you've been to any one of the previous calls, you know that we love to see your faces, but of course, we have choice beyond our preferences. So if you choose not to, or you can't, of course, it's okay if you have your cameras off as well. This event is designed as a taster for a coming up course in April and May, which is a course for women facilitators who are wanting to launch a project, or if you want to try and run a project and for some reason you're finding it a little bit too hard, and this is a course that you might benefit. We'll be sharing the links in the chat in a bit, but this is a taster of the sort of work that we do from an embodied perspective. You'll be lucky to have Martha today to work with you live today. If you want to get you're going to get the replays and the recordings for these sessions for the next 48 hours. But if you want to keep them forever, you just got to attend to one live session in all of 3 days for this week. So Martha, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, it's feeling nice and informal. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's lovely to see almost 300 people here today from around the world. I happen to be on the land of the Lenape peoples here in New York City, and you might hear some city kind of noises in my background. I'm also feeling very deeply for those people that have had their homes invaded and that are dealing with a kind of war-torn situation, whether it's within their land boundaries or moving across into other homes and other nations. So my heart is really with all the women and children, especially of the Ukraine today. Our talk is about, really my talk is about decision making. How do we make decisions? And as women that may be running a business or doing a coaching practice or running a household, which is a kind of business, or any kind of work or play, really. Emotional could relate to relationships. How do you decide what is right for you? And with that, I just want to bring us into the body. That is what embodiment is all about. And that is what I've been doing for over 40 years. I just happened into it as a dancer who is also a scientist. And my background came from the worlds of somatic movement before that word even existed. I have strands that I can go into, happy to share more, but my work is called dynamic embodiment. And dynamic embodiment, somatic movement therapy, to be quite specific. In dynamic embodiment, what do? We embody and we find center, which is so important when there are challenges in the world or in our day. And that's great to be centered, but we also need to be dynamically responsive to the moment. And I have to admit that my dance training has really helped me with that. So in general, I like to consider being my body in every possible moment. I am totally interested in knowing what my body feels about a certain circumstance. And I'm going to invite you right now to locate 3 places in the body that I like to align to make a difficult decision. Easy decisions, I might not even notice my body, or I might notice that I feel good and everything's going well. But when I'm wrestling, whether either my mind's getting very tight or my heart is feeling somewhat torn or conflicted, or I've got queasiness in my gut, those are the 3 places we're going to be going for knowledge, for wisdom. So let's start with the gut. So I'm going to invite you, and I'm going to step back and tilt my screen down so you can see a little bit more of my body. I'd like you can stay seated, or if you want to stand up, please do. Just join me in touching your belly. Now, your belly goes into your back body. In other words, your intestines which is full of cellular knowledge. This is an area that existed before our nervous system even was developed. And then our nervous system merges and it has its own name. In body mind centering, we called it the abdominal brain. Now in science, it's called the enteric nervous system. So it's clear that there's an intelligence, the microbiome. So again, if you would just take a moment and feel the back where the mesentery is, where your intestines kind of have a kind of suction cup relationship into the back of your muscles, your musculature. And the breath is clearly one of the best ways to come down into the pelvic floor, into the creative center, and into the gut. Today, we're not focusing so much on the pelvis and sensuality and sexuality. We can save that for another day. Today, it's this decision-making idea. I already have an idea. I'm not looking for new options. I'm here going, is this the right decision for me or for my group that I'm leading? So taking time to breathe with the diaphragm descending on the inhale, expanding, allowing this entire area, your side body, your front body, your back body, and your pelvic floor and thoracic diaphragm to move. Slowing down the exhalation. So what happens with this practice is the slowing down is already going to calm the nervous system. And then you're asking your gut, how are you feeling? What is it that I know to be true? It's some kind of level of, what do I know without thinking? What feels right? And then coming in to the heart. So we're just kind of mapping the territory. Your heart also has a front and a back. All of our hearts do. And width, it's more on the left. So feeling the front and back and left side, and you might sway a little. Or you might feel like you want to go forward and back, or even rotate. So just taking a little time with, what is my heart's desire? So that's a slightly different question. What do I know? What do I want? And then coming into the brain. Now, there are many parts to the brain. There's the low brain, which has a lot of reflexive ability to catch ourselves when we're off center, or the forebrain, which is really our executive functioning, really helping us determine the details of a plan. And then, of course, the integration of our speech, our movement, our vision coming into the back of the brain. So again, front and back, take a moment to feel. And if your arms are not comfortable here, do what's comfortable for your body. You can just imagine. What I'm going to ask you to do is let the weight of your brain drop into your hand a little bit, if you're comfortable. And then put your back hand on the back of your skull and let your head come up and feel the inner contents of your skull, the actual insides. Let go, like beans inside a beanbag, beans inside a beanbag, water spilling as you pour it, like a balloon moving with air in it or with water in it. Find what image works for you. Again, this is calming the brain, saying, brain, you can take a break. You don't have to think so much. And I'm now taking my hands to my sides of my skull. Your eyes could be open and closed. And just kind of, this idea of resting your head. What's it like to rest your head? Let your brain really rest. Why are we doing this? Because if we get into thought processes, especially negative thoughts like I can't do it, or I'm scared of it, or thoughts like, if I only had da da da, which is a helpful thought because it's telling you about something you feel you need, but the stress behind it is not necessarily so helpful. So instead, I'd like you to very much just relax, relax into it. Yeah, find your way. Let your brain go. Let it just be an organ, just like your heart. Now add your heart. I'm going side to side. You might be doing some other movement, that's fine. And then your gut. This is beginning to align your whole body, just in movement. We haven't really applied it to a specific decision yet. And maybe now finding your center within that. So I'm just going to come forward, see how you're doing. We have just located 3 parts of our body that literally have intelligence, that have information, that have guidance or wisdom. The gut, the heart, and the brain. So I'd like you to take a moment and go, which one felt easiest for me? Which one do I operate from? So that's one question already. Like, oh, I really do trust my gut. I know when I'm in the right place. Or I love following my passion. So that's great. Or I want to be able to do more of that. Or my thoughts actually are quite positive, quite creative, and very useful for me. And my executive functioning of detail orientation actually helps organize me and keep me on track. So I'm going to be quiet for about half a minute and let you either write or think or move or talk out loud. You're all muted, so you can talk out loud. And enjoy your body's wisdom for decision making. Notice what your strengths already are. Great. Now, the other thing, I'm looking in the chat. It's so beautiful to see how much responsiveness there's been. And of course, if you don't want to be in the chat, that's fine too. Yeah. So once we tune into these places, if you haven't been using them as a resource, for instance, if you tend to be more gut and brain and not heart, or vice versa, all heart and no gut or brain, or you know the combinations, there are many, then does the movement actually help as a way to get there? I find it does for me. So by just stopping, remembering, saying, oh, putting my hands on my heart gives sensation for me to feel it. Breathing, the lungs are literally massaging my heart. And then moving says, I care about you. Both I'm nurturing you by rocking, like we would a child, but also I want to listen to you. And that is a kind of a requirement. You need to get this knowledge. You need to be willing to listen to your body, to let it speak. So you've invited it to speak, but then actually listen. So this is where questions kind of come in. So you might get very specific right here, right now, and go, I'm trying to make this decision about when to call so-and-so or what to do tomorrow. Something simple. It doesn't have to be your whole life plan when you're practicing a new strategy. And then we're going to go through these 3 centers. Maybe we'll go from the top down this time and just see what kind of answers you get from each place in your body when you let your body speak. Letting your body speak is a big part of my work. I'm going to do another talk on this with another group, Moving for Life, at the end of the month. So feel free to look out for that. So do you have a question? If not, just do the movement and see how it's going. But if you have landed a question, you can apply it now and go, What am I thinking about this? What are my ideas? What are my plans? Ideas and plans. Are they feeling muddled at all? Kind of mixed up or not clear? And you can say, what do I need to feel clearer? And then you can go back to this activity of feeling the front brain supported by the back brain. I like to close my eyes, so excuse me if I close my eyes. You can keep them open too. Even the eyes are part of the nervous system. So just what are your eyes? We could go into the eye part of the brain. We can go into the front lobes. But right now it's general brain just saying, where do I feel my thinking can be clearest? What position of my head on my neck allows for blood flow to the brain? Feels dignity of my own beingness when I have my head on top of my feet. So just look for those places of centeredness, calmness, dignity, clarity, and see how that, wherever that position of your head over your feet, on your neck, feels best. And just ask your question now. If it's been a puzzle for you, a little stressful, you can also lift your skin off of your eyebrows a bit. So I'm going upward with my hand very lightly. And it just allows me to take a deeper breath. Okay. And just notice what you learned from your brain. How is it feeling? Did you get a new idea or a sensation? Maybe nothing. It's okay. Whatever happened, just notice. We have a short amount of time, so I'm moving a little quicker than normal. And obviously in a coaching, dynamic embodiment coaching session, we would be really talking a bit. What words are coming up? What sensations, what feelings, emotions? And in that way, we might stay with a certain area a little longer, find out maybe what your feet wanted to say about your head, okay? It's very gestalt in parts, and then very embodied on a somatic level, this process of dynamic embodiment, of decision-making, aligning the brain, heart, and gut axis. So let's come to the heart now. You've got your question. Maybe it's even changed a little already. Maybe it's another level. What do you want to ask your heart? What is the want, the desire? And as you may have noticed, I put my hand on the back so that my heart feels cradled, front and back. And there have been times I haven't been able to do that, frozen shoulders and injuries, but it comes back. Again, the breath of the lungs hugging the heart. The deepening of the breath, saying, what is it I most want in this moment? Letting my heart move if I don't know yet. Do I want to recede and go backwards? Do I want to move forward? Do I want to get more information and look around? Do I want to see, is it a yes or a no? Right side, left side, should I go this way or that way? And I'll just be quiet as you move your heart and ask your question and listen to what your heart is saying. And see now whether or not there's some kind of integration you want to do that's different. In other words, do you need to shake out or jiggle your hands or palm your eyes? Or are you ready to go down to the gut? What is it you most need? And then I invite you to come into the pelvis, belly button region. So it's a little bit of in between the gut into the lower body. Take a deep breath into this area. What is it like to really bring your breath down? Has your question changed? Is it the same? Or are you spending time more with just the sensation, which is fine? What's it like to embody your microbiome? The mesentery is an area in the back that attaches, but the intestines themselves have a lot of the intelligence. So they have a complex physiology and physiological function that we can go into if you come to our embodied physiology class sometime with dynamic embodiment. Oh, one is starting this Saturday on Zoom. So here we are, a little chance to squeeze, speak, move. One of the things I think is amazing about belly dancing is there was not always an understanding that the sensuality and sexuality of belly dancing was also about preparing for childbirth, but it also tonifies the gut, which we want to keep clear and healthy so that we're putting into our bodies what we need for growth and nurturance. So what is your gut saying about what you need for your growth and your nurturance? What is best for you? What do you need on a gut level? And just take that in somehow. You might give yourself a hug. You might stretch a bit. You might write. You might shrug your shoulders and wiggle. And what I'd like to do now is feel the gut need come together with the heart want, with the creativity of the brain, the free and easy brain, so that there's a sense that your creative center can help meet your needs. So we have two creative centers, the creativity, excuse me, of the pelvis, but the creativity of the brain when you get rid of the stress. So taking time to just feel that. Now I'm curious to hear some of your questions, and I guess we do that through the chat, I'm not sure, or your comments. So I'm just gonna look and see, or if there's a different system where people can actually ask questions, then I'm open for that too.
We could do it any way you like. We could take questions on the chat or open microphones if you'd prefer that.
Well, let me start with Hallie or Haley, the not knowing what tuning into means. So that's why, and excuse me, I'm going to just cough for a second, clearing my voice. At a somatic level, soma is the living body. So we all have bodies, but the body that is alive has within it the capacity to heal. So somatic means my body, mind, intelligence. So dynamic embodiment, somatic movement therapy is exploring the intelligence of the body, celebrating it, and supporting it to be to help our body-mind connection, our soul, to really be happy, to be full. Okay. Now to tune in, I'm talking about tuning into the body, which means you have to feel it. Proprioception is a sense that we're not taught about in school. We're taught about eyes and ears and mouth and nose and skin, but we also have proprioceptors in our joints. We have our inner ear telling us if we're falling or not. We have all sorts of ways of knowing what our body is doing and how it feels. And that connects to our emotional life too. So sometimes starting with how am I feeling emotionally can be a way to tune in. Another is what I had us do, which is to touch and breathe into an area, to move it if it's not moving by itself, or to move with it and follow. Those are different ways to attune with your body, to begin to ripen your sensorial ability, that I feel actually what's going on in here. And I can speak from here that I'm really glad to be with all of you today. And I'm glad that you're alive and healthy. I'm glad that you're choosing to explore embodiment. So that's what my heart is saying to me right now. It's also my gut is saying, wow, it's hard to do this on Zoom, but we can find a way. And my brain is going, okay, let me take a little more time and see what else people are asking. Okay, I hope that was helpful. There's like 40 comments, so I'll see what I can do. Yeah, I don't feel able to connect to any of the 3 places. So then if that's the case, start where you do have sensation. If you have no sensation in your body, then it might be, and of course during COVID, it's been really difficult, important to get touch. Touch is one of the primal ways to feel our bodies. Coming from ourselves, you can do it for yourself. Pressure is a way to feel your body through the tactile sense. So that works. Then as you begin to feel touch, you can start to be aware of your sensations of your body, even without that extra pressure or that extra movement. But it does take practice. Those of us that were in the dance field had an easier time because we're used to feeling our bodies move through space, and we might lean on some other dancer, so you get feedback from that. But if we've had a life where there's very little touch, or the touch was not necessarily pleasant, then we have to retrain to receive touch as a positive thing. And then there's this idea of I can tell when the decision doesn't sit well with me in my gut and heart. Okay, so that's great. You're aligning. I'm just reading a few things from the chat. When there's so many different decisions going on, it really is trouble landing on one. Sometimes we just have to make a choice. So here's one way to do that. You take a finger and you point. You just do this thing. Because when we do this, we're actually encouraging exploration, which is fine. It's great. I need to do more exploring. What are the possibilities? But then when I need to make a decision, it's helpful to channel your energy. This is part of movement analysis. There are ways in corporate world that we actually look at whether people use these kind of movements to show that they can make a decision. So you could start to practice putting your finger on it, saying, this is it. And just seeing if on your heart and gut level, you can do that. So that's something to just practice if you want to play around with it. I'm glad that there's a sense of the soothing and the safety and the letting go. Yeah, if you're already in distress or have a headache or a heartache, it's definitely important to calm down first in order to make a decision that comes from, quote, a centered place. And that will take time. It doesn't mean you shouldn't ask, because if you're agitated, you can say, what's going on? Why are you agitated? That conversation is valid. It's just, it wouldn't be a good time for making a huge decision about your external life or other kinds of things. It's a time for just listening and finding out what your body needs. I hope that's helpful. I think we have to end in this next minute. So I just want to share with you again, dynamicembodiment.org. Is a training program, but we have open workshops. We have over 100 practitioners throughout Europe and the United States, and some in Asia and Latin America. I'm seeing if I can spell it, dynamicembodiment.org. It's going to be International Women's Day. We care so deeply that we all use our knowledge to help each other, that our interconnectedness is what's going to save us. And so I hope that this interconnectedness in the body is helping you. And if you just want to know more about me, drmarthaeddy.com, they all link up, but that's another one. It might be easier to remember. And truly, we do have a workshop coming up this Saturday. So if some of you are intrigued about getting inside the body, we're going to be working first from the muscles and bones with movement efficiency and alignment. So you might enjoy that. Is there anything else that you can think of, Patricia, that you might want to say? I just hope you enjoy the conference, the summit, and continue.
Well, we actually have some extra time.
Oh, I thought we went till 2:30.
If you want to stay along and answer some of the interesting questions in the chat. But I do want to close the session for those of you who have to leave on the half an hour. And again, so before you guys leave, I love that you got a taster. If this is the first time you work with Martha, it's a beautiful way to know what's happening in the body, because as we say, the body is the mind. It's also the emotions. It's the physical body. So it's great to be able to access it from as many doorways possible, right? Because this is a huge, huge topic to be addressed. So I'm pasting on the chat the links for the event. If you want to share it with a friend, a sister, or whoever, a neighbor, somebody that you think might benefit from it, and a link for the course that runs from April till May. Any questions you can send over. There's the support email. We'll be happy to have you here if this is something that you might think resonates with you. Of course, for these days, we've tried to get like a taster of all of these things that are happening in the body, in the mind, in the emotional field of women who want to access that activation, right? That ability to go forward with, in this case, of course, because we are, this is a company that trains particularly around coaching. So it's particularly around launching your work and stuff like that. That's the training for you. We encourage everybody to join who resonates with this, but of course, we're happy if you get enough with the tasters and through these sort of exercises that have been so lovely. You will get the recordings at the end of these 3 days. They're going to be ready, sent out to you. They'll be available for 48 hours. If you want them for the rest of your life, you gotta be on the live calls, at least one for each of the 3 days. So you still have one more day to go aside from today. And with that, I'll wrap up these first 30 minutes. Again, thank you, Martha, for sharing these lovely exercises and getting this taster for everybody here. For those of you who want to stay, and Martha, if you want to stay for a little bit to catch up on some of the questions that you got I saw on the chat, we're happy to let everybody go who has to do stuff around the house or somewhere around around your work or whatever. So thank you for being here. Thank you for making space to join us today. And yeah, great. So
there was one very practical question, which was, if someone didn't come to the summit yesterday, do they get the videos if they registered today?
That is a very interesting question that I will be asking the second. If you hang in for a second, I'm just asking the people who know this stuff.
Okay, and then I'll keep going.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm interested too. Tina, if you're still here, I think it's an important question in any case. She said, could you review the different ways to kind of tune in? And I said, touch, then breath, then move the body part, like actually cradling and rocking, then let it move. Others of you talked in the chat, and I did refer to this, but I'll just say it one more time, about if there's already a lot of movement going on and it's actually agitated movement, might that be a good time to get into this work? And I'll just say again, that it's a good time to listen to your body and find out what it needs, and to give it either touch or breath or rest. A few of you said, I just found out I was tired and I need to rest. And that is very much part of industrialized society, is we've lost our ability to have our siesta. And the gut is happiest when we eat and then really rest. Cultures used to know that. And now people eat on the run. So there's this mixed message of nurturing, but still doing. And so that's something to watch out for. I'd love to hear somebody's voice. If we could take one more question, then I actually have a few more things. I have a book due today that I'm getting in print. Speaking of, I have 2 other books. This one, if you like to practice yoga, I am not a yoga teacher, but I've been doing the sun salutation for 35 years. So this book shares about how to work with the sun salutation in little parts or in whole to stimulate the hormonal system, to get deeper rest, to balance the immune system, to come into creativity. I'll take a moment and just mute whoever came on. And then prior to that, I wrote, and this book was written with a yoga teacher, Shakti Smith. And so it's just full of her wisdom as well. You can see her name here. This book I wrote on my own, and it's a history, although there are quite a few other authors in it, of the whole field of somatics. So if that term was new to you today, or you are really interested in how it came to be, the Alexander technique, the Feldenkrais technique, body-mind centering, my own dynamic embodiment, Emily Conrad's continuum work. There are just many, 40 different systems. We might be up to 50 now that come together under the umbrella of somatic movement. And so this talks about the history, but then also why it's important today. There's a section that relates to today's class, which is called Healthy Movement, Healthy Mind. And it's about really taking care of the body and trauma as well. Okay. Anybody want to unmute and share a question? Ozma, is that you? Go ahead.
Sorry, are we aiming for a balance of all 3? In other words, not to lead with one particular part of our brain?
That's a great question. I get your question. I feel that if you can take time each day, or at least during your week, to know that each of these parts exist and to honor them, that in the moment, one part might lead in a decision, like my heart is really in it, that's fine. It's not like they all have to be there. But if they're discombobulated and you don't have access to your gut, that could be a moment where your heart is leading, and somehow on a gut level, you knew that it's meeting a desire that maybe was like an unmet need from your childhood, but it's not actually what you need as an adult. And so if you had included your gut, you might have made a different decision. So it's not that you have to always, stay completely aligned. We are dynamic human beings with lots of change. Different parts lead at different points, but having access, being able to tune in again, being able to say, hey, especially if there's an issue. If things are going well, you don't need to do any of this. But when things get rough, it's good to know, I tend to overthink things. Where else can I go for an answer? Oh, I have a heart. Oh, I have a gut. So that's kind of how I use it.
I've got another
Thank you.
question. Thank you so much. I've got another question, if I may.
Sure.
I find it really difficult to distinguish between my kind of gut intuition and my gut fear.
I read that in the chat. Yeah.
How do you distinguish between the two? How do you know when it's really your gut intuition telling you something, or how do you know when it's like a traumatized gut? And I say this because I also suffer from a chronic illness, Crohn's disease. So I feel a lot of things in my tummy, like nerves, everything is just sitting here, and I'm very aware of that, but I don't know how to tell the difference.
Yeah, no, it's a really important question. So generally, if one had the experience of a calm gut, that would be the place we would want to look to for wisdom. And yet, if that's not your baseline, you still want to embrace your guts and recognize that it is telling you that, I don't want to say, I do want to say there's some kind of imbalance if you have Crohn's disease, right? And I've worked with many people with Crohn's, and it's saying I need some support. So whatever you can do to support your gut first, before you also then ask it to help you make an outward decision, seems really important. And I don't know if for you or anyone, it might be just drinking more water, or if it might be lying down in a certain position with a certain kind of pressure, like lying over a soft physio ball sometimes feels good. So you will want to find pleasure and you want to find comfort. And then from that place of comfort, ask these questions if possible. Now, obviously, you still can ask even though, but that's one way to sort out the difference. Does that seem at all possible? Great, great. It's a beginning. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for that vulnerability. I appreciate your sharing your personal experience. It's true for so many of us. Yeah.
We have Julie has a raised hand.
Julie.
That's me. Thank you. Yeah, I put this question or commented on this in the chat. And I think other people have talked about feelings that came up. And so for me, when we were moving through the second section and going from brain to heart to gut, at the heart, I had this feeling of anger coming up, and I was able to release it because you said kind of shake it out, and I found myself really shaking it out, you know, like pushing it away. And I was curious. I mean, I didn't know why I was feeling anger, where it was coming from, but I was aware of it. But if you were in a coaching session and something like that came up, how would you explore that with the client to, you know, sort of use the wisdom behind that?
Yeah. One of the first things I would do is I would ask, would you like to explore what your anger is sharing with you right now? Because if someone doesn't feel the capacity in that moment, we don't want to, I'm going to say exaggerate, because that's what we do in movement. We actually amplify the experience so it becomes more obvious. And if the person says, no, this isn't the right time, we might go to supporting in some other part of the body, like move away from the heart and touch the feet or stamp the feet and say, let's just, you know, find other places. So again, we're looking at what feels tolerable. So once we find that window of tolerance around one's own emotions, then we can work. And so if there's an agreement to explore, then the kinds of explorations could be, what's that gesture? Like you might notice your arms did a certain thing. Can you either slow it down so much that you find out more from it, or speed it up so it's a little cathartic and lets go through the kind of trauma release of shaking? So this is, I'm being very general because there's so many different ways to go, but that's what we do as movement therapists. We also, in dynamic embodiment, use conscious dialogue. So we might have somebody get a piece of paper and have a column and say, the angry part of me says this. And then you might pick the wise part of me, which could be your gut, your heart, your brain, or just the wise part of me is saying this. So sometimes we do kind of cognitive exercises as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful.
You're welcome. And I'm glad that your body is speaking to you. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually have a 2:45 appointment.
Yes, so I was going to ask exactly that. We don't want to use, I mean, sorry. Yeah. We want to be respectful of your schedule. So thank you so much, Martha. I think if people want to thank her on the chat, that would be nice. I know there's still lots of questions, but Martha has given us lots of resources to reach out about her work. Thank you so much, Martha.
What a pleasure. Thank you. I hope that this opens some part of your own, what many people would call intuition, and I call wisdom. What we think of as intuition is parts of ourselves that we haven't been told are real. And these are real. We have a biology that is real, and there truly is intelligence in the gut. When I first got to this work 40 years ago, we were working with the sensations of the gut, but they hadn't named, or at least we were not aware of it being named, the enteric nervous system, and how much decision-making is going on for the whole body and physiological control. So with that, I just hope that each of you feels a little more empowered to listen to your body, let it speak, and make decisions that feel great in your life.
Thank you, Martha. See you
All
around.
right. Be well. Yes, I look forward to seeing you anywhere again.
Bye-bye.
Do introduce yourself so I know where I met you. Bye.
Bye. All right. How's everyone doing? Great. Let me change to gallery view because I want to get a sense of you guys. So, hi. Hi. Great. So I want to take a moment before we go into more questions in general, I'm actually open to taking questions from other subjects that you've seen so far, other talks that you've seen so far. What has been one of the greatest insights that you've gotten so far? We're already halfway, actually more than halfway done for these 3 days together. And I would really love to find out which has been one of the insights, or like I think insights is a good enough word, discoveries, realizations, understanding, or experiences that you've gotten so far that is still resonating with you. Body stop. Could you say more about that, Ellen? Confirm that the body is much closer to our inner wisdom than our brain. Than our brain.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about Patricia,
Yeah,
since
sure.
we are. Do you like voices? Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah. The body is top, just to make it very short, because it's really I have shifted into, there is so much more in my body, and I wasn't aware so much about it, visceral, and that is the news for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy. Great. Yeah, it's amazing, all of the. I sometimes open my workshops and ask people, and I say this when I'm teaching, right, quote unquote, teaching, to listen with your brain, your analytical brain that we're trained to do that from school. Listen through your body, listen through what you're feeling, through your emotions, and through your perceptions as well. Because these are all sorts of sources of our own wisdom. And it takes a whole different, like 3D experience to bring all of these things together. Let's see, I'll catch up. My body speaks, and all generations before talked through it as well. Yes, Helen, yes, it does. It's a lot to take, but great as well. Yeah, and sometimes when we start looking into this generational stuff, we think, oh, this is a tragedy that happened in my family, and this is like a bad thing that I know happened, but also we get life through generations, access to life power, life vitality. So it's not all that bad, right? I know sometimes bad things do tend to have, our brain is designed to put them up on the front of the radar, but it's good to remember that also we get good stuff, right, out of that generational connection. That pretending I didn't hear an offensive comment is a kind of fight response. It is. It's a way of dealing with, to keep our internal ears tuned to the well of wisdom that is already there. Beautiful, Lisa. Nice journey ahead. Did you hear the answer about accessing recordings? Let me see if I got a response. Yes, I have. Let me read it. Lifetime access only for those who attend at least one per day during the event. Free only for, yeah. If you do register for the course, you get that. You get that for the course. Sorry, but you will get the recordings, even if you did not get to be on all of the things live. You do get the recordings for 48 hours. If you were here for every day, at least once, you get them for a lifetime access, but you do get them for 48 hours just by signing up. So I hope that answers some of the questions. I've learned some wonderful exercises I can use to help clients trust themselves through their bodies. Yes, great, Betty. All of this is so interesting. I have been so reliant on my brain. So getting in touch with my body signals are so life-changing. Wonderful, Crystal. Yes, this is the conditioning, a word that's very commonly used around this, of only accessing one sort of intelligence or wisdom, which is the brain. And it's not bad, right? It's there for a reason and it does its job, but we also have other sorts of flavors to add to our plate. The body never lies. I'm surprised how easy it is to connect and listen to what my body has to say. Yes, and how simple this approach is with the embodied tools you are teaching us. Feeling grateful. Second, the question of Vika. Let me see, what was the question of Vika? Was it about the recordings? Yeah, so everybody gets the recordings for 48 hours. Remembering there is so much, okay. How similar the continuum of themes have been with when people have been asked to share how they're feeling. Yes, I love that. Every time I always ask these things on purpose, many times, like intentionally, because we get to see, like, in a group of, I mean, right now it's 230 people here, but even, and that's a lot, right? But yesterday was 600, and the questions, the answers are always similar in lots of senses, right? It's when we don't share these things, which is usually the very common experience of leaving our stuff inside and minimized, it feels that we are like a weird, manifestation of humanity, right? Like, I am experiencing this weird thing that I keep to myself. And when we get to share it so openly and so concisely, it's like, oh, so this is normal. I am normal. I am human. Yeah, it does have such an effect to just be able to hear these things. All really so many ways to explore and grow, so many great teachers. As I was dancing at Zumba today, I was literally dancing and smiling at my own mother and the generations before. It was beautiful to see her smile in my own face. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Will we get all the recordings, even the ones we missed? Yes. The recordings will be available at the end of tomorrow. You'll get them with a link on your email, and you'll get to watch them for 48 hours for free. This is an interesting point about ancestors speaking through our bodies. That means I will be speaking through my children in the future. I am wondering what I will be saying. That's such a nice question, Julie. Yes. Hi from Costa Rica. Hola, Caterina. I am surprised of all the wisdom there is in the chat. Women together from all over the world. Thanks for this wonderful energy. Well, yes, thank you to everybody who's creating this field right now. I often feel sad when I do these exercises of going into myself. Someone said she felt anger. Would the methodology be the same no matter the emotion? Yes, Ellen, and thank you for the question. Well, the comment and the question. I said this in my call, in the session that I gave 2 hours ago, that I said coming into the body is coming into what is in the body, right? And sometimes that is, I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel whatever it is that you're feeling. I'm sorry, I'm going to mute. Yeah, thanks. So it's coming to what is, right? These exercises are not like this illusion of the beautiful self-care. Oh, if I go into the body, everything will be nice and beautiful and pink and flowery and peaceful, right? This is a path of authenticity, not necessarily, I mean, I never use these words about like, oh, this is the path to happiness and a place where all of the worries of the world will be forgotten, right? The path of authenticity means being with what is, right? And sometimes, and I actually used these words earlier this morning when I said, coming into the authenticity of the body is usually touching, for many people, into what actually made you want to leave the body in the first place, because it felt uncomfortable. And we did not have the tools to manage what was happening there. So going back with an adult mindset is knowing, okay, I will, as Martha was saying, she used the words, what is my anger trying to tell me, right? So either sit with it, embrace it, or do some work around it, or use it for something, I don't know, whatever it is that the experience is. But I pause to make a note with Ellen's comment that it doesn't have to be pleasant, right? When we come into the body. It's, again, it's an authentic path, and it's more about what are the next steps that I gotta take once I get that information of what I see when I come into the body. Make sense? Yeah. Yeah, this idea of all of these spiritual pursuits or personal development, and that's like the way to happiness, where nothing's gonna bother you again. That's sort of like an easy sell, right? But it's not necessarily what actually happens in a real process of self-development. Yeah. The whole idea of having wisdom in my body, in addition to my overworked brain, is empowering and amazing. A whole new territory to explore. Realizing I carry my inheritance in my body, not just carried in the mind. And remember, yes, it's in the body, right? Repeating my question, if you could answer. I'm in the process of standing up to bullies. Is there anything you could recommend on a body level I could do to support myself in that difficult time? Okay, I'm trying to think of like a very quick thing to say in a very short time. First off, I will say, of course, I say this often when I get asked these sort of questions. The best answer would be to get a precise overview of your situation. And I don't mean what's happening outside, but what resources do we have here, right? So imagine that you're preparing to go into a theater and do a play. So do you know the script? Which script are you playing? Is your costume on? Are we having to work with it from scratch? Are the lights on? You know, we gotta check and see what's happening, right? But what is the pattern that is, what is the role that you're playing in that bullying, right? Because we need to empower it from there and finding that strength from there. But one thing that I would recommend is doing a strength practice. This is like the most general thing without knowing your precise situation, whether that's some sort of physical training, granted that you can have access to these abilities, but resistance training, strength, that prepares the body on some aspects of the body, as Martha was saying, that will have you being able to stand up to whatever it is that you need to address and set limits. Yeah. Again, I'm talking in general, depends on which situation, what needs to be done. I did some yoga before this session, feels good in my body. I thought I had a good awareness of conditioning from family and society. This series has very powerfully and humbly showed me that on all my levels, that it runs so much deeper. My awareness had only scratched the surface. Wonderful, Lisa. So I would absolutely love to stay even longer and talk about all of these questions that I see here, but I also want to address the fact that time is limited. I do want to make enough time to thank you for being here. Of course, the richness of these conversations is that is what we hold together, right? Sharing from our experiences, just knowing that we all are living in our own different flavors, and from our corners of the world, we are dealing with very similar things. And that in itself is very empowering. And of course, as I said on the first session, we empower through the unity of what we want to push us forward, not from the victimhood or of the difficulties that we've lived and stay there, right? The unity is not in that bond. What unites us is our search for stepping out of those things. So I'm very happy to be holding this time and these rooms for these conversations to happen. I always love to receive your feedback and the comments when you find some of these things of benefit. And we've done the dropping exercise several times during this call. Whatever doesn't necessarily resonate with you right now, no need to, should I be, is it, and don't harm yourself thinking that everything has to fit, right? That's the whole opposite of what we're trying to do here. So drop whatever is like, I did not necessarily resonate with things that I heard, not for now, and take what benefits you for the next step, and we're good to go. All right. Okay, see you tomorrow. One more day to go. Bye, everybody. Have a nice rest and digest space. Bye-bye.